Hi, welcome to Funguy The Entertainer Cooks For You. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are making chili pizza. Craig asked actually quite a while ago to make this. It took me a while to figure out how to make it work. I haven't made a homemade pizza in I can't tell you how many years. Back when I was in the restaurant business, I probably made a few, but for the most part, I don't do that. So we're going to make pizza dough from scratch. It's going to be the first part of the video. Then we'll turn it into a chili pizza and we'll go from there. The first thing you're going to need, well, let me go through the ingredients really quick. You have to have yeast. The first yeast I have, when you buy the Red Star Active yeast, it literally comes in a package of 3. You just cut one package off. You need exactly one package. That makes it easy. You need 1 1/3 cups of warm water, not hot water, warm water. If you use hot water, the dough will become a little bit slimy. I don't mean slimy as in like moldy slimy. I mean, instead of chewy or crispy, it's going to be slippery, wet. It won't hold. The same with the flour. The flour that we have is 3 1/2 cups of bread flour. If you do not have access to bread flour, you can use all-purpose flour, but use unbleached all-purpose flour. It sort of causes the same problem. It won't be slimy, but it'll be doughy instead of crisp or chewy if you use the bleached. It's just the way what bleaching does to flour. Then, of course, we're going to need olive oil. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We'll go back into the amounts later. I'm just telling you right now for the thing there. We're going to need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. As you know, I like sea salt. We're also going to need sugar. It sounds strange, but sugar does come in handy on this recipe. And we're going to need cornmeal. There's 2 different kinds. There's yellow and white. It does not matter which you use. I happen to have the yellow handy, so that's what we're going to use. The cornmeal is actually going to go on the pan to keep the dough from sticking when it's cooking. So that's how we're going to, oh, then of course you're going to need a mixing bowl. Sometimes 2 is better. And you're going to need a pan. Now I'm using a bigger pan because I'm making 1 big pizza. This recipe will make 2 14-inch pizzas. So I need to put you on hold because that call is for me. All right, sorry about that. Business comes in sometimes and you have to take care of it. So that's what we just did. So back to where we were at. We're going to show you how to do this. We are not going to need any of this stuff here. I just had it here to show you. We do need the bowl. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the warm water. Remember warm water. It didn't cool down too much, so we're good. And the yeast. We're going to, now you could do 2, looks like I'm going to need a pair of scissors for this. You don't have to do this by hand. I'm doing it by hand because I cannot find the hook to my mixer. I have a mixer. I have a paddle, but I can't find the hook. So we're going to do this by hand. If you have a small tabletop mixer, you can do that. It will work fine. But the first thing we need to do is take the yeast and mix it in here. Make sure it all dissolves. And of course, it's hard to make sure it dissolves because it turns into paste if you just dump it in like I did, like a dummy. I should have sprinkled it a little bit better, but it will still work. What's going to end up happening is once we get this in here and dissolved, it's going to sit for roughly 5 minutes, which will make this become foamy. At that point, it's called proofing the yeast. At that point, we'll continue. I probably let the water get a little too cool because it's not dissolving as fast as it should. So I'm just going to keep stirring this. This is what happens when you have an interruption. One of the reasons cooks don't like interruptions. They do happen, but it interferes with timing, and timing is everything in the cooking industry, and baking, of course. As you may have heard from some of my other shows, our family business was a donut shop. And I'll tell you something, especially in the summertime when it gets warm and humid and everything's coming up faster than you could possibly cook it, you are just going crazy getting it all done. I still got a little bit of a lump here, but it's almost all gone. See, it does work if you take the time. All right, since once we get to this point, it's going to take 5 minutes anyway. I can only talk so long by myself. Well, that's not true. I could probably talk forever by myself. But I don't want to bore you, and I don't want this video to be a 3-hour video. So we'll come back after this is all proofed up. Yes, and we are back. We have had our 5 minutes of sitting time. You can see it looks a little foamy. It's all dissolved, which is what you want. So now it is time to start adding our actual ingredients. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. So what we'll do is we'll open up our sugar bag here. Get 1 tablespoon. Presto. Very simple. Put that off the side. We're done with that. Now we're going to add olive oil. The reason you do the sugar first is because you're also doing tablespoons. And now using the sugar, the thing was dry. If you'd done the olive oil first, obviously the sugar would have stuck to the olive oil. So now we need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. There's 1 and 2. And as long as you've got the olive oil open, you should have your next bowl where you're going to also need a large bowl, not quite as big as the one you're mixing in. And you're going to add a tablespoon to this bowl, and I'll explain that a little later. But for now, that's what you do. Okay. Now we also need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So what we do is we find the easiest way to do it is use your 1/4 teaspoon and do it 3 times. Very simple. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, the only other thing we're missing at this point is the flour, which I already pre-measured. I have 3½ cups of flour. Remember, this is bread flour. So we put that in here. Now, if you have a tabletop mixer, at this point you would use the hook attachment and you would mix this for roughly 7 minutes. Since we don't have it, we're going to do it by hand. It's not as easy, but obviously people have been making bread way before machines, so you can do this. Oh, another thing. Preheat your oven to 200 degrees. I know we're not going to be making the pizza already, but we need to proof the pizza, or the dough. So, in order to proof it, if you don't have a proofer, obviously if you have a proofer, you can use that, and it'll make things go, obviously, a little faster. But this is a great way to do this without a proofer. Once it stirs in and starts going like this, you're going to have to switch to your hands. There's just no way around it. That's why they call it kneading. You can't knead with a spoon. So, and you're going to literally knead this for 7 minutes. Oop, I had a timer ready, so let me hit the start. There we go. Again, timers help tremendously. Obviously, in the old days, they didn't have timers either, but that's okay. We're going to use it because we have access to it. Since I don't do this regularly, oh look, there goes the phone again. Let's see. Oh, I can't talk to him, so we're going to put him on voicemail. Well, I can't because my fingers are all full of dough, so I will call him back. Reason I brought the phone over here is I decided, if at all possible, I'm going to put people on my show that call in. But in this particular case, since it's a customer for my party bus, for my party bus business, I'm not going to just surprise him like that. If it was a telemarketer or one of my friends or one of my employees, another story. So when you need it, there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. Basically, this is the way I like to knead dough. I just keep twisting it and twisting it and twisting it. It pulls it off your fingers, and it makes it blend in really good. When you knead it, you're actually doing several different things. Not only are you mixing the ingredients together, but you are creating heat in the dough. Natural heat, friction heat, not artificial heat. And that's going to help the yeast do its job. So we're going to keep doing this. And pretty soon, actually, since this bowl is no longer necessary, I'll get it out of the way. Give my fingers a few second break. Now you notice we've got that olive oil on the bottom of that pan. In roughly 4.5 more minutes, now this is the amazing part. I am obviously out of practice from doing this. So I'm already getting tired, so it's making me wish that I had tried harder to find that hook from my mixer, because I do have a tabletop mixer. I used to be a confectioner. We made gourmet peanut brittle, and then I invented gourmet chocolate peanut brittle, and that mixer came in so handy for making that. So I know I had all the parts, but I can only find the paddle right now, and the paddle will not do this. It's not even close. You need a hook. But also, as you can see, this is mixing pretty good. And most of it's coming off my fingers again, which is a good sign. That means that the dough is turning into the consistency you want. See, it's coming off pretty good here. Not bad. Okay. The other thing is, you're stuck watching me do this for the 7 minutes because I'm not going to touch my cameras with these fingers. And touching the phone was one thing. And, you know, if I was in a restaurant, I never would have picked up the phone and then gone right back to food without washing my hands. But this is me going to eat this. And it's my germs on the phone, so I'm not too concerned with it. But, oh yeah, look at this. See, this is looking really nice. In my opinion, it's already ready. It doesn't need the full minutes, 7 minutes. But, yeah, look at that. I love the look of this. Very, very nice. Okay. Now, if you ever run into a situation where your dough, this is what the dough looks like. This has a great feel to it. If this was too wet, you could add more flour. Or obviously, if this is like really dry, you add a little bit more water. I did a good job on my measuring this time. Everything feels perfect. I'm going to keep rolling this a little bit. I'm not going to get quite as crazy because now you can see everything is sticking back to the dough ball like it belongs. Not so much of it left on my hand. And remember, wash your hands before you do this if you're not wearing gloves. Wearing gloves is very, very difficult when you're working with dough because you can't quite get the right feeling for it. Gloves are slippery on the dough. Granted, the dough won't stick, but again, before we had gloves, everything was done by hand. And it doesn't hurt you as long as you have clean hands. Okay, we're down to 1.5 minutes, so we're right on schedule. It would have been actually good if I could have answered the phone with him, because then we could have talked a little bit. Okay. Now, to make sure that this is ready, since we're down to the last minute here, what you want to do is you want to poke it with your finger. If it slowly bounces back, your dough is ready to rise. You see where I poked my finger, it did come back up. It's not 100% perfect because it left an indentation, so I'm going to go just a little bit longer with this, which will create a little bit more heat. But it's pretty close, right on the money. This is fun. Good for your biceps, by the way. I can feel it burning because I'm so out of practice. You'll never see a pizza maker with scrawny arms, I bet. Unless they're using the machines. Okay. Let's check this again. Oh yeah, look at that. That is exactly what you want. It came right back. All right. We're down to 20 seconds. I can make it. I can make it. I'm going to pay later. My arms are really sore. One more poke. Yep, look at that. Bounces right out. Okay, here goes the timer. So I'm going to turn it off so you don't have to listen to it. Now, the reason we poured the oil in here is we're going to take the dough ball and we're going to roll it around in the oil. Completely cover it with oil. I mean completely cover it with oil. Okay. Now, I forgot about one other thing that comes in handy. When I did this in the old days, we used a damp towel. But something that will work better since we're in a home kitchen is plastic wrap, which I do have. But I have to wash my hands and I have to go get the plastic wrap. I'm not going to bother putting it on pause. I'll just edit it out a little bit. Or if it's okay, I'll keep it going. We'll see. And we're going to, whoops, cover the top of the bowl. Apparently, this wrap does not have a serrated edge like aluminum foil does. That's kind of a surprise to me. That means I have to manually cut this. Okay, surprise, surprise. Did not want to cut very well, but I was able to get it started and then finish it by pulling on it. And of course we have to do a little bit on this side too, so I'm going to try cutting it off to the side instead of over the bowl. Oh, that's a lot easier. And we'll cover this piece that didn't get covered. Okay, now, the oven, you heard one is up to temperature. Turn the oven off. Okay, now, stick your bowl in the oven. Leave the oven cracked open to that first spot. You know what I'm talking about. Just like that. For roughly 30 minutes. Then after 30 minutes, you're going to come back. You're going to actually close the door and let it sit for another hour or so, then come back and check it. So in 30 minutes, we'll come back. We'll do our, no, I'm not even going to do that. Just turn it off. In an hour and a half, we'll come back and we'll show you how to finish the dough. Alrighty, because we have a nice warm day today, it only took about an hour and 10 minutes for the dough to double in size, which is what you're looking for it to do, is double in size, and then it's ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the dough out of the oven. Remember, the oven was not on for the last hour. But look at this. See? It came up just what you want it to look like. Now at this point, what you're going to do, roll up your sleeves of course, is you're going to pump the air, punch the air out of the dough. Literally, you just hit it and it pops the air out. And then roll it in to a ball again. Now, at this point, you can take the dough and split it into two pieces and put them into two separate bowls, or take one piece and put it in the freezer for a later use. This recipe will create two 14-inch pizzas. However, as you can see, I have a larger pan, so I'm going to use this entire bowl. Now that we have the dough out of the oven, we are going to preheat the oven to 475 degrees. This is hot. It has to be hot. So get it up to 475 and start it. At this point, we're going to recover the bowl. I don't know why I balled up the plastic. That was kind of silly. Or saran wrap, I should say. Recover the bowl. And this is going to sit for 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, we're going to start turning it into a pizza. It's going to take a full 30 minutes for the oven to be completely hot. Even though it'll preheat to 475 in probably 10, 12 minutes, That's just the air temperature. When you're cooking pizza, pizza ovens, they turn those things on an hour before they start cooking in them because everything has to be 475 degrees. Not just the air, but the racks, the walls, everything has to be 475 degrees. Pizza, to cook it properly, has to be cooked hot and fast. Otherwise, you burn stuff. It sounds weird because you overcook it, you dry things out, and it burns. Cooking pizza has to be done quickly. The only case that you don't cook it quite as fast is if you're doing a deep dish where you need a lower temperature, but that's a whole nother story. We're not doing this. I, however, am going to do one large sheet pizza, and I'm going to make it a little thicker than most. I like a thicker dough, which is the other reason why you're doing this kind of dough, because it will give you a slightly thicker dough. I like what's called hand tossed. Not deep dish. Deep dish is too much. Thin crust is okay, but a hand toss is, half-inch thick. Half-inch thick gives you dough. That's what I like. I like something to bite into that's not all bread, but good substance. All right, so we'll come back in 15 minutes and we'll go from there. Okay, dokie, we are back. We did 15 minutes with this sitting with the oven preheating. It is now at 475, but again, we started this early because we're going to now create the pizza, and the oven is going to continue heating so everything gets hot. So now we get rid of plastic because we are done with it. Remember, like I said before, you could have separated it. You could have made 2 pizzas at once, or, you could have made one pizza now and frozen one of the dough balls for later. I'm just going to make both. There's 2 things we could do at this point. We could use a separate sheet to roll out the dough, or you could do it right on the pan that you're doing. I'm going to do it right on the pan because until I can get a better setup for cameras on my countertop back here, where that's my normal work area, I'm doing everything on the stove. There's not a whole lot of room. Now, I don't know if you recall this, but on an earlier show, I said I don't like spraying while the pan is on the stove. So I am going to move this away from the stove for a moment. I apologize for being out of the picture there. But you're going to take an olive oil spray and cover the pan with a nice good cover. Now we're going to take this cornmeal. This is where it gets challenging because now that the pan is got spray on it, cornmeal is going to stick a little bit. It's not going to be quite as smooth as if we were doing this on a separate sheet or a separate, If you have a pizza stone, this is awesome. Or if you have a silicone mat will work also. I have small silicone mats, but I do not have a big one. So we have a good cover here. I'm going to once again punch the dough, roll it a little bit, and I'm going to stretch it so that it's a little bit longer in my pan here. Now, in a pizza parlor, they usually throw flour on the dough in order to roll it out. I am going to use a little bit more cornmeal to keep the pin from sticking to the bread or to the dough. All right, and then I'm going to start rolling. Starting to look pretty good here. It's not going to fill the whole pan because of the thickness that I want it. But it'll come pretty close. Unfortunately, this the roller is just a little bit long, so I'm hitting the edge when I'm trying to roll. So I'm going to use my fingers and spread this out a little bit on the ends here to get it a little bit more uniform. Now again, in a pizza parlor, they're going to cut it into a circle, or they're going to make it slightly larger so it fills the whole pan. This is the first time doing this, so what I think I would do is I'd make this a little bit bigger. I'd add a little bit more flour, and I'd make the dough ball just a little bit bigger, because I'm not thrilled with the little bit of empty space. The fact that it is not round or it's not square is no big deal, because this is a sheet pizza. You're going to cut it into squares or strips, however you want it. Now, if you were making a regular pizza, this is the time you put the tomato sauce down. But if you recall correctly, I'm making Craig's chili pizza. So, this is the chili we made in the last show. I saved some in the refrigerator, and we're going to take a ladle. And we're going to drop it on the dough. Now, if this was sauce, we would have done one of these things, which moves the sauce around the pan. But needless to say, the chili is a lot thicker, so it's not going to just spread that well. I am, however, going to still try to use the ladle to move it. I'm assuming that it will still work. It does. You can obviously use a spatula. Do it to the thickness that you like. It doesn't want to be too thick, because otherwise it's going to be too heavy for the dough when you're cutting it and trying to eat it. And since this is literally a new recipe, although I suppose I should have looked online to see if I could have found a chili pizza recipe, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to make my own. So I'm assuming that everything's going to be peachy keen. Try not to bring it right to the edge. Get close, but I'll show you why in a moment. One of the things that I like to do is roll a little bit of garlic powder on the crust, on the edge of the crust edge. So this is looking pretty good here. Okay, filling this little bit of hole. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. Try to get it fairly uniform in thickness. Obviously, it's a little harder seeing that this is chili, not just sauce. The meat's already included in this, so that makes it easy. You don't have to be adding your sausage or any of your other ingredients. Okay, now, I know we didn't mention garlic before, but that's because it's not necessary. I just happen to like it. So I'm going to take some garlic powder and literally just sprinkle a little bit on the edge. Just like that. Okay, I've got a good cover all the way around. Then we're going to take the edge and just roll it up on itself. Because what we're doing is we're making a little bit of a lip. Unfortunately, the chili, as it started to get warm, started to squeeze off to the side here, which is why we want to make this lip. Okay, I just heard the oven kick in again, which means that it's still heating, even though it says it's up to temperature. But we're right about it getting really close to the amount of time you want that to be working, which is about 30 minutes, to make sure everything's really hot. Okay, so you've got a nice little edge all the way around it. Now we need the cheese. Now, since this is something new, I thought I would try 3 different types of cheese on here. Sorry, let me stand here. 3 different types of cheese on here so that we could try different flavors to find out what's going to work the best. Normally when we eat chili, we put cheddar cheese on our chili. Most pizzas are made with mozzarella cheese. There's lots of different cheeses that you can make pizza out of. So I'm going to grab the ones that I pulled out. Okay, what I have is a Mexican taco cheese blend. I have sharp cheddar, and I have mozzarella and provolone. Or you could just use straight mozzarella. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use up this Mexican cheese that I had for tacos the other day. And we're going to put it on one end. Make sure you get a nice, good, even covering of the cheese. And actually, yep, you can see it on the screen. I had to look up at that. Remember, we're still working on getting better angles on everything. Okay, so that's going to be one section of cheese to try. Then to make sure that we can tell the difference, we'll put the mozzarella provolone in the middle. This is what most people put on their pizza is mozzarella, not necessarily mozzarella provolone, but provolone is also an awesome cheese for pizza. Or any pasta product for that matter. Okay, I like a good covering of cheese. And then we'll put cheddar on the end here. At this point, we're coming up on that full 30 minutes, which is exactly what we want. Okay. This looks really, really awesome. Thank you for suggesting this, Craig. I'm not really much of a chili eater. My wife has always enjoyed chili, but it's just one of those dishes that I never really cared for. But now that I made my own versus buying it somewhere else, I tasted it and it was really good. So I'm looking forward to trying this pizza. All right, as you can see, we got the 3 different types of cheese. We're going to see how this works. The oven's been preheated up to 475 degrees. It should take 12 to 15 minutes to bake this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this in the oven. I'm going to set the timer for 12, and then I'm going to take a peek at it. If it's ready, I'll pull it out, and I'll start the cameras, then pull it out. If it's not ready, we'll just go a little longer so you don't have to see me checking it, because it's down here. You really can't see in here anyway. So we'll be back in just a moment. Here we are. We're back. Because of the size of the pizza that I made, I had to go a full 18 minutes. So the timer just went off again. I'm going to pull this out. Remember, if you're just making a small 14-inch, the 12 to 15 minutes is probably right on the money. But since this was a bigger pizza, I had to go up to 18 minutes. So we're going to pull this out of the oven now. Look at this. What do you think of that? Looks delicious. I'm seeing that the crust looks perfectly cooked. Cheese has got a nice brown to the top of it, which is what I like. What I'm going to do is, I made a mistake. I thought I had a pizza cutter. I know I used to have a pizza cutter, but it's been so long, it probably just got tossed because I haven't made pizza for, I won't tell you how long it is, probably since we moved into this house, which was 12 years ago. So I'm just going to use my normal big knife. Now, I'm going to switch the glove to the other hand so that in case the pan starts to shift while I'm cutting it. You should always cut the pizza while it's still hot. Now, because there's 3 of us eating this, and I want to be able to test try each flavor, I'm going to cut 3 long strips this way to start things off with. And we'll do one here. Okay, then we'll cut each segment off. And because we can't eat that much pizza each of us, we're going to cut each one to each also one more half. I can see why the roller would have been a lot easier. All right. Now, this is too hot to eat. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 plates together. There's only 2 of us eating tonight. And I want to be able to show you that I am actually eating these things. So we're going to go just a moment here longer. Oops. You know something? I think Yes, much better. All right. And of course, the final piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do while we are here, I'm going to, boy, this is hot. I'm going to try a piece of this. You know, normally you pick up pizza, but we're going to need a fork for this because it is thicker. So I'm going to take a piece off the end here. Yeah, I don't want to burn my mouth. Craig, it's a winner. Thank you for making me try this. I'm looking forward to finishing this. Hope you enjoyed our show. Funguy the Entertainer cooks for you. Remember, please share. Liking and subscribing is awesome, but you need to share. Viral is everything in this world. So if you like our show, pass it on to your friends and ask them to pass it on. It takes a lot of viewership to get anywhere in this world anymore. So I appreciate your help. And once again, thank you for watching Funguy the Entertainer cooks for you, and enjoy your meal.